All right, let's get the world map up.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't need this old crappy map anymore.
Oh, what is this garbage?
This BS.
Actually, will you share a link to that in the Discord, Bricker, just so I can have this?
Hit print screen quick! Toss
this map in the dumpster.
Too late.
Don't let him print screen.
It's gone forever. Here's your new world map.
Oh, it's Tantalus.
And this
wow.
This is pixelated.
Yeah, you like that?
I do.
This is a.
Oh, this is good.
I found some nice hex tiles on the itch.io.
Yeah,
I installed tiled. Also, Nodal will appreciate the background is apparently from The Witcher.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, that's what we're doing. All right.
Oh,
The
neat.
TV show or the game?
I don't know. It was on the workshop as The Witcher panoramic background, so I'm assuming the game.
Is it? Oh, yeah, it is.
Nodal's been to this place before.
This just looks like Skyrim.
Maybe
I thought it was.
Could be. Well, no, there's no snow or glue.
Yeah. Plus, all these flowers are still here. In Skyrim, all these flowers would be in your pouch.
How many of these locations do you guys remember from our first campaign together?
I remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That was like 12
7.
years ago. I can't remember that.
None of you remember the town of Garreton?
There are 2 I don't remember.
There are 2 that you wouldn't remember because I added, well, 3 that I added to the map after.
Oh, I'm not sure about that lake either.
But this town wasn't there. We had never named the actual Dwarven kingdoms, and we'd never given a name to the Elven kingdoms in the south.
Okay, yep.
If you had put a gun to my head, I would have said that Dunn Foss and Blue Worm had an ocean between.
No.
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 No, it was... Blue Worm is literally a vassal state of Dunn Foss originally.
I don't remember that at all.
Or, I'm sorry, it was a vassal state of Garreton, but it was chosen because it was in a trade position between the 2.
What
I remember
we
Khalil
did do
would
in Blue Worm
this
at
road.
first was Eldov spent months digging out a river over the many miles between Blue Worm and the ocean that has since closed up, so now they just have this enormous lake instead.
Those fuckos! They've got to do maintenance!
I'm just lucky I remembered to put pants on this morning. Like, you want me to remember
that's fair.
12 years ago, the campaign? I think I played like a cleric or something.
Yeah, maybe. So as a refresher...
No, your name was Eric.
The campaign world
right.
has 3... continents is the wrong word because there's one large donut continent encircling an enormous central ocean. In the first campaign, we spent a lot of time on the other side of the ocean, which is a large and endless desert that ends in a wall of fire. And we didn't spend any time in the south, which is a frozen wasteland that ends in a wall of ice.
Ryan took the ship there once, but yes, other than that.
In this section is a large, fertile land of grasslands and forests that ends in a mountain range that eventually ends in a wall of impenetrable earth. So if you were to travel north from here, you'd be going through enormous expanses of unsettled wildlands. You'd basically be traveling through the first campaign, or through the third campaign, rather, of orc raiders and goblin tribes and things. These are the civilized lands where we will be spending, hopefully, most of our time in this campaign. And part of what we're going to be doing today... Oops, I got to go to immigrant.com. Also, here's a problem you can solve for me, Nodal, while we're playing. These bags I can make persistent through table loads. The dice I cannot. Anything you pull out of a container is by default not persistent, and there's no way to make it persistent as far as I can tell. So if you want to get cracking on that... We will be making the character tiles persistent, so we don't have to remake the initiative table every time, though. That never got old, right? So this is essentially the wide world where the campaign's going to be taking. Where you guys are going to be spending most of your time, though, is the areas in and around the Kingdom of Dunn Foss. Most of this is unlabeled because I don't actually know what most of this is yet. So we're going to figure that out together as we go.
This is very nice. I like this.
Yeah.
I actually need to credit the people who made the tiles. I should add that to the actual map. It's called Cuddly Clover's Fantasy Hex Tiles on the itch.io. And they're adorable, and I like them a lot. So this is like the 2 or 3 hexes right around Dunn Foss on the previous map. We've zoomed in a level. And we've got like some mountain keeps up here, and there's acres and acres of farmland around the major settlements. And we got some kind of weird graveyard thing in the woods. A couple of lakes. Ominous roads that just disappear into the woods. Everything a group of adventurers needs to get through their day. And unfortunately, I don't have adorable hex tiles for this final map that we'll be using.
No.
I never click the correct button in tabletop on the first try. It always takes me 2 or 3 tries. This is the city itself. Also unlabeled, because I actually don't know where everything is yet.
I remember the first campaign was a little more, it was like more Venetian, like there were channels and stuff in between the streets and whatnot.
I tried really hard to find the map that I used in the first campaign, and I don't have it anymore, and I don't know what happened to it, so...
That's a super bummer.
Yeah, this
Oh, well.
this is Dunn Foss now.
The previous city just burnt to the ground and they had to rebuild
I mean,
it.
you still have, like, the Richie Rich Harbor area here that has, like, Venetian canals. I don't know.
Yeah, I do see that.
Dunn Foss and the surrounding lands are very well civilized. There's very little in the ways of monsters raiding orc parties and things. The waters are pretty safe in and around Dunn Foss as well. You don't see a lot of piracy near to their shores. The city proper and its immediate surrounding lands, the manors and homesteads and things within a day's or so travel of Dunn Foss, have a population of about 120,000. That's most predominantly human, about 10 parts human. About 1 part each of the major demi-human races, dwarves, half-elves, halfling, and gnomes. And then 1 part combined, so less than 800 or 900 each, of things like elves, tieflings, Aasimar, half-orcs, tritons, goliaths, firbolgs, earth genasi, and githzerai. For character creation purposes, on the table are the PHB, with the understanding that we have established there are no native Dragonborn to this world. If you intend to play a Dragonborn, people who don't know you are going to assume you're a monster, and probably you'll have an interesting backstory that I can use 5 or 6 levels down the road to make you wish you hadn't rolled up a Dragonborn. Elves.
This is a way of banning Adrix from the table.
No more Adrix. It was
No more Adrix.
It was too good.
He is too perfect, yes.
Elves are in a
Sorry.
similar space in this world. Elves, especially on this side of the ocean, they don't mingle with the lesser races. Especially in Dunn Foss, there's historical reasons why elves don't travel or come to Dunn Foss. They're more common on the other side of the ocean. There are nomadic sand elves. But once in a while, you do see a weird freak of an elf decide to leave their civilization and come join the human folk for whatever reason. Other races from Volos are on the table. If you really want to play a goblin or a hobgoblin or a bugbear or something of that nature, you can. Again, the understanding is going to be people who don't know you are just going to assume you're a monster. You'll probably be fine in the city because you guys, as we'll get into, have established yourselves as a business in the city of Dunn Foss. But traveling out to the homesteads, the faraway manors, you're more likely to get into trouble if you intend to play a bugbear. And I think Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes has the stats to play Githzerai if you're so inclined. And again, they have the same kind of issue where they're not native to this world. There were a large collective of them. They're known to keep a monastery far to the mountains in the south. And they were the ones that used Flumphs as their dream seers.
Yep.
Sorry, who is this? I was getting...
The Githzerai.
Githzerai, okay. So I have a question.
I like questions.
This, I guess this is amount to how smart the people in this city are. So say I'm a monster and I'm walking down the road and I'm talking to like humans and dwarves and whatever at being normal, looking normal. Is their first instinct still going to be, I need to stab this monster in the face right now? Or is it going to be, I'm going to ask a question about this?
In the city of Dunn Foss, if you're an unknown quantity, their first thought would probably be to flag down the Moss Caps. The Moss Caps are the Dunn Foss City Guard. Hey, there's a bugbear in the streets. Why? Your characters specifically are going to be known quantities in the city. So you're going to be like, oh, that's our bugbear. He's one of the good ones.
I was mostly just curious anyway. I have no intention of playing a monster.
Well, what about the like walking through the farmsteads? Like if we're in a group and it's like 3 humans and 2 like, you know, whatever, and then a bugbear, are they going to stab the bugbear?
If you're not known to the homestead and they have the ability, they would probably open fire.
So it's basically just immediate torches and pitchforks. Got you.
Morals. And with good reason, because 99.9% of the time, if a bugbear is coming onto your homestead, they're going to murder your family and take all of your chickens.
Not the goats, though.
I do have a last-minute entry into the allowed rules. Obviously, all the classes are on the table from Player's Handbook and from Xanathar's. And I'm open to looking at... I know that we talked about Onomancy, McDohl. I know, so I'm open to looking at whatever Unearthed Arcana you might want to put out. But a Christmas miracle happened last night because my brother-in-law was out of town over the actual holiday, and then I didn't see him for 2 weeks because of AGDQ, but last night he gave me a copy of Eberron, Rising from the Last War, which is a book that I now own. The Eberron races are bullshit, and I'm not allowing them, but this book does have finished rules for playing the Artificer class. So that is officially on the table for this campaign.
Oh man, I was kind of thinking maybe playing a changeling, but it is pretty bullshit.
So, I'm going to backpedal that a little bit. I haven't had time to read the book yet. I literally just got it last night. But I don't think we need any more wacky fantasy races than we already have. But the Artificer, we've actually talked a lot about including it before, and we were going to use the UA version last campaign if anybody wanted to play it. But I've got the official book. I took a look
at it briefly. I've got the book myself, and it looks neat. I'm not so enthused about the pet type stuff.
Yeah, that was what I didn't like about it.
Okay.
Last time I looked at it.
One of the optional rules for the Artificer is that if your campaign has gunpowder weapons, the Artificer is the class that gets proficiency with them automatically. It was not my intention to introduce gunpowder weapons into this world, but it happened. Dragon powder is more pervasive now than it would have been in the first campaign. We're a couple of 100 years ahead of the first campaign.
Okay.
So
I think the Alchemist subclass does not have a pet, like Destil.
Really?
They changed one of them. It can get an optional pet. It's one of the
homunculi.
Yeah, the homunculi is like one of those attunements, enhancements, whatever they call them. And you can get it, but it's not actually part of it.
I mean, we've got a lot of time today to look over this if you want to look over all your different options. The one thing I will say, and I think I proved this thesis with the Flumph of the Wild campaign beyond a shadow of a doubt, is I'm gonna preface every 5th edition campaign I ever run with this statement. Play the character that you really, really want to play. Don't base your race and class decisions on what does the party need or what is everybody else playing. Find the one that you're excited to play and play that character. This system, we've proven you don't need a dedicated healer. You don't need any spellcasters. You can have 2 rogues in the same party and they're not stepping on each other's toes. And I'm convinced any combination of classes will work fine in this game.
Except for Ranger.
Except for Ranger, which is terrible.
Except for Ranger.
I mean, I think Ranger for us has just been a lack of experimental data.
Well, Adrix played a great Ranger.
Hey, Adrix was one of the best rangers.
That being said, I have 2 rangers in my current Storm King's Thunder game, and they're both awesome in their own ways.
Oh, that's good.
One of them, I know they both took subclasses out of Xanathars. One of them has the ability where if an enemy can only perceive them with dark vision, he's invisible, which let him gank a couple of trolls, so that was pretty good.
That's good.
So even a class that, like, if the math says the class is underpowered, probably the class still feels pretty good to play. I've never had a player complain about a ranger, except for Adrix.
I'm a big fan of the dual rogue thing. Like, sitting there getting like 2 sneak attacks every round on somebody for like 100 damage a round is pretty good.
They've added an elephant race.
Of course.
Yeah, the Luxodon.
Loxodon, yeah.
Yeah, that's in.
Yeah, no, that's
gonna
I'm
be
imagining
playing one.
Adrix the
That's
elephant now.
gathering thing. Yeah, they also
That's
added the Veldequeen, but the Veldequeen don't get any advantages for having 4 arms, from what I can tell.
The Simic hybrids. Is that what you mean?
No. Oh, they added Simic Hybrid as a race. Is that how they did it?
It's it's in
I was trying to figure out where they put Simic Biomancy. No reason.
Like
All
you
right.
just
Let's
get to
go
pick.
over.
You can have
Let's go
4
over just the rule stuff before we get into the setting stuff and character creation and all that. My general style is I try to run by the rules as they're written in the books, using just a plain English read of the text as often as I possibly can. And I do not like breaking the rules for any reason. I do not ascribe to the rule of cool. I think you guys have the ability to do enough insane, memorable stuff inside of the rules that I don't ever feel the need to break them. That being said, we have some house rules that we do play by. You don't refill your HP on a long rest. You have to spend hit dice. You get half of your hit dice back at the end of a long rest. You need, at bare minimum, you need safety and comfort to take a long rest. How my players in Storm King's Thunder have solved this is they took their first treasure win and invested in a couple of tents. So now I can't even say, oh, it's raining, your long rest is ruined. They foiled me, at least until I introduced tent mimics. The only feat that I don't allow is the lucky feat, and the reason I don't allow it is because we're using blips instead. This is just something everybody can do. I don't allow any violence to occur outside of initiative. As soon as a character declares violent intent, and I confirm that that is in fact their intent, we roll initiative right away. The only exception is I allow, in certain cases, enemies to hold an action outside of the initiative order. The only reason I do that is because I've determined that if I ask players to roll initiative without any real reason why, they completely change the way they approach the game. And I'd rather just have the hobgoblin or whatever shoot you first.
That's fair.
Blips. We'll go into what blips can do. You can hold up to 6 blips. We're going to award them for the same ways. You can get them for your alignment, your ideal, or your flaw. And then at the end of the session, we'll award them for creativity, assists, intangibles, and the badass. Plus role-playing blips in and where they are appropriate when you guys go above and beyond. You can hold 6. They roll over into experience. They're worth 1/30th of a bar to the next experience level, judging by whoever's the highest level at the time. You can spend 2 blips to re-roll any d20 on the table that you've rolled. You can look at the roll first and decide to spend the blips afterwards. If you don't like your second roll, you can keep spending blips to re-roll it as much as you want until you run out of blips. You can only do that for your own rolls. McDohl, all those 2s that you roll to hit, for whatever reason, you can spend blips to re-roll your own to hit. Nobody else can spend 2 blips on your dice. You're on your own.
For clarification, did we also last campaign agree, though it didn't come up because there's very little magic, that as a offensive spellcaster you could force an enemy to reroll a saving throw?
We did decide that for last campaign, but I have also changed that rule.
Okay.
So for 4 blips, you can either get an auto success, you can do an auto success on your own rolls, or any other players at the table. So when McDohl rolls a 2, it's inevitable. Nodal can spend 4 blips to have his attack hit, no questions asked. Or you can spend 4 blips to make an opponent fail a save, or otherwise reroll a Like, fail it's a hit roll. It's an automatic fail. If an enemy hits Razu and knocks her down, and that would have killed her, somebody can spend 4 blips to make that hit miss instead. And those apply to any enemies. Anybody can spend those. You can use... Actually, I think I got that backwards. I think I've messed up my own house rules. How do you like that?
Hmm?
I'm going to refresh my memory here. I was trying to give you the rules off memory, and I think I got it backwards.
Oopsie doodle.
Yeah,
Was
you
your
like
first
that?
mistake.
Yes, I did. My mistake. I apologize. 2 blips are correct. 4 blips are an auto success on an attack roll, saving throw, or skill or ability check. That applies to anyone. 6 blips forces a target to fail an attack roll, saving throw, or skill or ability check. Or you can use 6 blips to refresh a used class feature or spell slot that you already have spent. A fighter can use Action Surge, then spend 6 blips and do another Action Surge next round. A spellcaster can use their last level 5 spell, then use 6 blips to get another level 5 spell slot back immediately and cast another one. You can use it to... I actually haven't figured out an interaction for this when it comes to more numerous resources, things like key points or meta magic. It hasn't come up yet. But basically, you can use this to refresh a class ability that you've already exhausted. The one interaction that I was asked about in Storm King's Thunder is how does it interact with a dragon's legendary resistance? A dragon can just decide to pass a saving throw. In that case, what you can do is you spend 6 blips, force them to fail a saving throw, which would require them to use one of their legendary resistances to pass it. You can't actually use blips to go directly through legendary resistance. They still have to burn it up first. That's not going to come up your first 5 levels in this game, I hope.
I hope not, anyway.
Or maybe
Question.
it will.
I hope not. That would
I'm
be
sure we'll
very
do
bad.
something wrong.
Spell slots. You mentioned the 5th level spell slot specifically.
Mhm.
Like, are all spell slots weighted equally for that?
Yes.
So level 1. Okay.
The intent is that this is an emergency. Like, I really need this right now. Like, this is... I don't have a fireball left, but I can burn 6 blips, and I can cast a fireball. I think the most powerful use of it that I can think of is probably a fighter recharging their action surge. I don't have any fighters in my current Storm King's Thunder campaign, so we don't actually get to see that happen.
A free action surge, yeah, does sound pretty baller.
It's not free. It's 6 blips.
That's not.
That's a big expenditure. So yes, Destil, just to clarify, it's a 6 blip cost to force a target to fail an attack roll, saving throw, or ability check. We had a whole bunch of homebrew rules for identifying magic items and stuff, and spellcasting and spell crafting and all this other stuff in the previous campaign. We don't need any of that. We're just gonna jettison all of that stuff out the airlock. If you absolutely want to try to identify a minor magic item, like a wand or a potion or something, without just using the identify spell, I might just bring these rules back up because I think they still work. But in general, I don't see this party not having access to the identify spell. I don't see it coming up.
I think a lot of us are planning on playing spellcasters in response to the last campaign.
A birdie played spellcaster in the last campaign. It was fine.
Where did we eventually land on identify eating the pearl? I feel like we changed that back and forth between.
No, we're just going to do that by the book this time. That
Okay.
was an experiment that did not work. I mean, I liked it, but nobody else did. And then Nodal sent me a horse head in my bed.
Well, I just feel like that changes what a 100 GP pearl means by the order of supply and demand. Like, how does that even work?
So, you can, in general, if the material component doesn't have a GP cost, you can just assume to have it. I'm not going to make you take time and track down, like, bits of fleece and wire and stuff. The 100 GP pearl, you'll actually have to spend 100 GP on it. At some point. You can't just take Identify at first level and assume that you have this treasure in your pocket. But it shouldn't take long for anybody to amass 100 GP, I don't think, either.
You might be getting ready to come into this, but you said you're throwing all the homebrew rules out, minus, like, you know, what you said. Like, when we were crafting stuff like poisons and things like that, are we still using, like, basically the Xanathar stuff?
Yes,
Is that what
those were the rules out of Xanathars for downtime actions. If you want to craft potions or poisons or things like that, those rules are in Xanathars. I never remember them off the top of my head because it's not something that comes up every encounter.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, there's like a gold piece cost over a period of time, and we can just abstract that out. You're spending X gold over Y time until you get the thing made or you learn the skill or whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not actually interested in role-playing every step of the way, where you're finding your poison ingredients or what you're spending the gold on. Is anybody planning to play an Aarakocra in this campaign?
Do they have to be blind?
I mean, I still have the flight maneuverability rules here, and they're still technically in play. It's just, even with an Aarakocra, I think we used them twice or 3 times, maybe. And that's it for special rules. That's all I have here. The rest of this is all just... Oh, I've got a special rule here for Birdie's Traps, so that's fun.
Don't know if anyone's planning on playing a kobold this time around.
So, what we're going to do today is we're going to do some character creation. We're going to fill in some of the city map and some of the region map as well.
Okay.
And I need to get tabletop back up here. There we go. So does everybody have a character concept in mind? Because if you don't, I have a lot of Dunn Foss history we can go through that might spark the imagination.
I was thinking about maybe playing a Triton. How common were they after Eldov decided to make Triton trade a thing?
So when Eldov made Triton trade a thing, most of that trade didn't come to Dunn Foss. Most of that trade went to Blue Worm. One of the things that's kind of happened in the past 100 or so years is the expansion of Blue Worm into a small inn, into eventually a village, and then eventually into a large city. The influx of wealth from the Outer Plains was so massive and so quick that it's basically become the largest free city on the continent. The other 2 major kingdoms are Dunn Foss in the north and Caer Tyrell in the south that have had like an uneasy history. And Blue Worm kind of just came along and flipped the table. So a lot of Dunn Foss's history the past 100 or so years has been in reaction to how this giant city to the south a threat? Are they a military threat, an economic threat? There are Tritons in Dunn Foss, and that trade does exist, but Dunn Foss is much further north than Blue Worm is. The flip side of that is Blue Worm does not have immediate access to the ocean, except through like magic portals and other such nonsense. They don't have an actual ocean front the way Dunn Foss does. So that kind of trade could come in through Dunn Foss and then down the roads to cities to the south. There are about 900 or so Tritons living in Dunn Foss, and at least 1 Triton NPC. If I could pull him up here.
Alright.
One of
Talk to me
the...
about elves?
About elves? What do you want to know about elves?
Why they're not here? They're all in the south, you said?
Historically, elves had lived far to the south, or deep inside of the forested regions. These are specifically high elves. And wood elves. Which I think the book calls Sylvan elves. I'm not actually sure. Subraces are dumb. But historically, what the elves would do is they would send an envoy, they would send an astrologer every 14 years, kind of as a ritual, to speak to the leaders of the great kingdoms of Dunn Foss and Caer Tyrell. At one point in the long past, that advice turned a particular king of Dunn Foss to ruin. And so they abolished the practice. They no longer want to see these elven star charts, and they no longer allow the envoys into the city. Whereas Caer Tyrell, far to the south, still does that. And Blue Worm has also picked up the tradition. Elves that live in Dunn Foss? You mean like elves, not half-elves, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Elves that live in Dunn Foss, most of them are going to be foreigners from across the sea. They're going to be sand elves that have traveled here as sailors or pirates or whatever the case may be, a Sylvan or High Elf that lives in Dunn Foss is probably going to be an outcast in their own society. You'll basically be playing Fran. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
There are a lot of half-elves in Dunn Foss, though. They're one of the major races.
Is it because most people can't figure out if they're human? Or is it because they look... There just is?
Most people regard half-elves, rather than being like their own separate race, as being humans with some Sylvan blood.
Okay.
Mechanically, they work just like the half-elves out of the player's handbook, but they're not seen as like a bastard race as they would be in, say, I guess D&D settings. Like in Dragonlance, yeah, that's what I was hunting for.
Tannis Half Elven.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of the half-elf houses in Dunn Foss probably don't have an actual elven ancestor going back several hundred years at the very, very least. Most of them are probably just because when two half-elves mate, they have another half-elf. That was, I believe, the case with Eldub. His entire family, his entire house was half-elves.
House Fireblood.
House Fireblood. The youngest noble house, which Destil may find interesting, is are Tritons from the south. These wealthy Tritons sailed north from wherever their holdfast was in the far south in the icy lands, spreading stories of terrible world-ending sea monsters that they're at war with, that have destroyed Triton keeps underwater and on land. So far, they haven't been able to actually sell this story. They're constantly going to the King of Dunn Foss and appealing like, hey, let us build you a navy and we can defend your lands. So far, that hasn't...
This is from the very far south near the ice wall?
Yes. They're way far to the south. And it's why Dunn Foss doesn't really take it seriously. They're not anywhere near that place geographically. But they did come with a considerable amount of wealth, and if you'll permit me to grab the surrounding lands map here. They've been granted quote-unquote lands off the shore of Dunn Foss. Like, their nobility, they've been granted lands like maybe around here.
Okay.
Which they have settled, and there are Tritons living there. So there are Tritons in the area, but very few of them live in the actual city. House Zorasath is the wealthy house that sailed up from the south. They do live in the city. They maintain a manor. By all accounts, they are... The house has become known for charity and good works. But their dire warnings of world-ending, planet-eating sea monsters to the south has so far fallen short. They've taken, for their heraldry, which they didn't have before arriving in Dunn Foss. But Dunn Foss and most territories have a tradition of heraldry, and they've taken an ice blue trident striking a black tentacle against a coral field.
Cool.
So, I hate to break this to you, Rick, but apparently they decided that instead of... Remember how we misplayed the Mind Link in the first campaign?
No, I don't. I don't doubt that we did, though.
You're not supposed to be able to talk back over it.
Oh, okay.
That's what we came to. Apparently they now have come up with a sorcerer that's pretty much just the Eldritch Sorcerer, and their Mind Link feature does let you talk back and forth.
Awesome.
Is that from a UA?
Yeah.
I remember reading that, but I don't remember what it was. Which sorcerer was
It's
it?
the Aberrant Mind.
Oh, is that the one they just put out?
Oh yeah, they put out the psychic stuff, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm like half on that, half on like some sort of weird artificer just to try out the class.
Okay.
Destil, you kind of sound like you're in a tunnel. Did you move your mic off or something?
Yeah, sorry, my wife brought me a burrito, I was eating it.
Nice. How was it?
It was okay. It was from like a really good taco place. They have great tacos, their burritos are okay.
Last time I wanted to get tacos, the taco place was closed, and I had to get fusion. And then it turned out the taco place was open the whole time.
They had good tacos, too.
Oh, good. I'm glad I missed them.
Wait, really? That was open?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's my fault.
Anyway.
I got burgers. It was good.
My fusion was real tasty. They just gave me way too much food, and I didn't realize you're supposed to eat it like a sandwich. So
I got shawarma, it was good.
I can't
Anyways,
pronounce what I got.
Was good.
So let's talk about the political entity that is Dunn Foss, because it is not a traditional monarchy. Dunn Foss is ruled by a king. The title of king persists even if the ruler is female. If there's a woman in charge, she would still have the title of king. It's not a hereditary title. It's not passed down to their children. When the king dies or is removed from office by some other means, a council is formed from the 5 high courts of the city. The high courts are the Court of Lords, which are old families and nobility, to which the newest member would be these Tritons from the south. The Court of the Gods, which represent the temples in the city and the various religions. The Court of Arts, which represents the magic colleges. And more recently, outer planar contacts. The Court of Commerce, which is the merchants and guild halls, and very notably demi-human interests, dwarves and gnomes especially, that have business in Dunn Foss. And then the Court of the Commons, workers, farmers, and the free citizenry. But very notably not peasants and not small demi-human enclaves. Like the little gaggle of half-orcs that live in the Dunn Foss ghettos probably don't have a seat on the Court of Commons. And by law, the king is chosen cyclically, where if one king was selected by the Court of Lords, the next king will be selected by the Court of the Gods. Everybody that's middle-aged or so in Dunn Foss has had a very tumultuous time politically. About 60 years ago, there was an excellent king, the Duchess of the Redlands, which is one of these farmlands around here, out here, a very old family, Juliana I of House Humberth. Her family was known because her granduncle or someone tried to sail across the sea to get a Keeskin bride and lost his arm to a sea hag. It was a whole thing.
That's dumb.
Right. But she ruled justly and honorably for about 40 years. Most adults living in Dunn Foss were born during her reign. And one of the things that she really did was focusing her reign on Dunn Foss's stability in the face of growing power of Blue Worm to the south. She never took a husband. She ruled for 40 years. She died of old age. After her, the Court of the Gods selected a king now known as the Scion. The Scion died under suspicious circumstances about 6 years into his reign. After that, the Court of Arts selected Catsbin IV. He set sail on a revel after his coronation and never returned. He ruled for less than a year. After that, the Court of Commerce selected the current king of Dunn Foss, Maximilian XI. Maximilian is a dwarf. His house is... his family's keep is actually to the north here in these hills, north of Dunn Foss. His family's lived in Dunn Foss forever. They're known for controlling the city mint. And Maximilian is a wise king by all accounts. He's maintained stability between Dunn Foss and the southern kingdoms. His time has been known as a time of peace. He's ruled for about 12 years, but he was very old when he took the office. During his reign, a great distrust of magic in general has kind of taken hold in Dunn Foss. Kind of the dwarven style has become popular. One of the things that Maximilian has done is founded the newest of Dunn Foss's magic guilds, called the Signers Guild. And it's named very literally. Their job is basically to act as witnesses when business contracts and dealings are signed to make sure there's no magical coercion on either party. Rumor is that Maximilian is either currently lay dying or is already dead. And the next king is going to be selected by the Court of the Commons, which is never a good time in Dunn Foss if you're one of the nobility, or one of the priests, or one of the old men of the various magic colleges. And these are the tumultuous times in which our player characters will emerge. Which of you will be the next king of Dunn Foss? Probably none of you. But thanks for asking.
Eldov.
Helium.
So, I'm working on the assumption that none of your characters from the first campaign have much of a foothold in these regions anymore, having since turned to the outer planes in various states of madness and imprisonment. Except for Eric. Eric was the High Priest of Osprum. His seat was in Blue Worm for many, many years. He is now since long dead, having died during the time of King Juliana.
Long live the king.
And his last word was, "Oh, finally." At long last.
That sounds about
I
right.
do remember that some of the that I think all of the people from the first campaign were all effectively immortal by some machination.
These are questions we will probably not explore.
Okay.
Would one of you like to now reveal what is the central conceit of the campaign, who you have collectively decided to play?
Well, Destil has demanded it, so I think he should be the one.
Okay, let's start with Brickgrove was like, "Oh, you're going to be some group of people," and then I opened my dumb mouth and says, "What if we were Scooby Doo?"
Is that
It was
really
a
how
hard
it
rain.
started?
Yes, that is exactly what happened.
Dunn Foss is never easy. Dame walked into our place. Yeah, I could have rehearsed that a little better, but that's what I'm going for.
And then
I don't know
Destin
about
was like,
anybody
"Yes,
else.
we can be Flumph Inc." And I was like, "Okay, yes, this is happening."
So the title of the campaign is Flumph Inc., and our player characters are going to be a detective agency in the city of Dunn Foss.
Yeah, I am dead split looking at options for characters right now. Either an artificer or a sorcerer.
Like we haven't decided if we're going to be like a traveling group of bards. Like just we're gonna get a dog. We don't know if we're gonna get a dog or a cat. If we're gonna have a van.
Well, you're not traveling. You're established in Dunn Foss. You will have a premises somewhere on this map out of which you do business. The degree to which this business is legal, or which of the magical and religious factions, if any, they're aligned with, this is all up to you. But you are going to have an actual business in Dunn Foss.
There are franchise opportunities out there, though.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
As level 1 characters, none of you have had a chance to branch out yet.
Okay.
Franchising rights alone will make us millionaires.
So I will be playing as a con man wizard
That's a
who pretended to be a seer who could see the future.
Mhm.
You saying he knew some of this old elven lore and he could get it to you on the right price. And then started realizing disconcertingly that his customers always came back thanking him because he was right. And he has started to realize he is an actual seer.
Okay. So, let's talk about the magic schools and colleges in Dunn Foss. Laws about magic in Dunn Foss are pretty lax. The main population of, like the rank and file people, the salt and pepper type of people, are mistrustful of magic, not because magic is bad, just because so few people can do it. Often in dungeons, especially in Dungeons and Dragons, it can feel like magic is absolutely everywhere, which is true to some extent, but we always feel that way because we're playing the player characters who are the 1%, so to speak. The basic law in Dunn Foss is magic is fine, but you are responsible for any damage that's caused by it. And traditionally, when it comes to, especially under this Dwarven King, if it comes before the king, if he has to make a ruling, he does have a bias against wizards. Like, somebody can claim, oh, he magicked my sheep, and then they all walked onto his farm, and now he's claiming he owns them. In those kind of cases, the king is likely to award the sheep to the person who's not claiming the magic. To counteract this, there are official magic schools and colleges in Dunn Foss. Anytime you cast a spell, you're technically breaking the law, unless you have official membership in at least one of these colleges. If you cast a fireball and burn down an inn, you go to jail for it, but your college pays to rebuild the inn. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
One of the oldest guilds in Dunn Foss, which would take a great interest in Nodal's character, is the Diviners Guild, for obvious reasons. This was a guild started by elves in Dunn Foss at the time when they still allowed their astrologers to come in and give their bi-decade reading or whatever. Largely now, though, they are considered to be, by the population, they are considered to kind of be snake oil salesmen. And a great many of them are. But you can still get a badge that identifies you as a member of the Diviners Guild and show it to whoever you please.
How hard would it be to get that badge if you didn't actually have seeing powers?
Just pay the price. Just pay the dues and you're in.
All right, so let's say my character was a member of the guild already, but just faking it.
Yeah. As long as you didn't get caught doing anything illegal, which by definition hasn't happened because you're not starting the campaign in jail. Think of these kind of factions. There's gonna be magic schools, there's branches of the military, there's temples and things. Think of these as watered down versions of the factions in Sigil. Your interactions with them are as deep as you want them to be. If all you want to do is pay the dues and just say, hey, I'm of this faction, that's as far as you need to take it. Or you can devote your entire life to climbing the ranks of the faction into positions of power. The main difference being that these factions don't have philosophies, they have business interests in Dunn Foss.
How did
I don't need to do that again.
How did the Kingdom of William the Bald make out?
Dunn Foss doesn't know a lot about the Underdark. The Underdark is vast, and it does exist. But one of the things that Juliana did during her tenure as king was establish embassies inside of Dunn Foss. She established 3 of them. One with Caer Tyrell, one with the Dwarven Kingdom of Gondriak, which is far away in the mountains, and one with the Gnomish lands of the Underdark, which are called Deep Merksif. So there is a little bit of trade, and the 2 kingdoms do recognize each other in as much as, hey, we're not currently at war, and we have no reason to fight. And at least some of the Deep Gnomes work in Dunn Foss at that embassy.
Are Deep Gnome rules in the Monster Source book?
No, they're actually in Sword Coast, but I still would allow them because I know Deep Gnomes pretty well. So if you wanted to play a Deep Gnome, we would just have to look up on Beyond.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I don't think we have Sword Coast. There it is. Okay.
I actually just played one. They get weird. You can take Deep Gnome magic.
Do they have light blindness?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think they have sensitivity. Notably, Dunn Foss has never established an embassy with Blue Worm. They've always basically said, we're rich and we're backed by the Outer Planes. We have no need to. We're not going to go to war with you because we would just crush you immediately because we have magic walking houses and all kinds of bullshit. But Maximilian, in the 12 years since he's taken the reins, has established an embassy with Kiska across the ocean. They're currently in the process of setting up a teleportation circle. There are some rumors that this has already occurred and is just being kept secret. Largely because Blue Worm already has one. So Dunn Foss is at a disadvantage with Kiska in that regard. And very recently, and not ordained by any government or backed by anything, an embassy has popped up called the Embassy of Sigil. But that's probably not important.
That's cute.
That's adorable.
It's actually just some wanker on holiday.
I'm sorry, it's pronounced the Embassy of Sigil?
That's probably how most people in Dunn Foss pronounce it, yes. Sigil.
Just get the guys inside. Just get really irrationally angry. No, no, no.
So wait,
a woman's face on the
So,
emblem looks like Starbucks.
your queen is the throne from Game of Thrones? What? God, she does kind of look like Starbucks. I'm never going to be able to unsee that now. Thanks.
Time to make that cup.
There is
Someone has to have already made that.
There is a predominant thieves guild in the town, and that's all the information you're going to get unless one of you chooses to be affiliated with it.
How are we doing stats?
Do you guys want to get that out of the way the first?
I'm just curious.
Because this is my favorite part.
Well, I want to ask the Thieves' Go question.
Yeah.
Is that someone I would have run into trouble with because I was running a con?
Maybe, maybe not. You haven't so far, as you know.
Okay. Because and this will be guided by everyone else's introduction so that we can figure out how exactly we came together.
Mhm.
But my thought is the conning and running from people who I had conned bit went on for about 1.5 to 2 years. And then somebody actually caught up with me, and I thought I was going to go to jail.
So, let's do stats. Everybody
I do
can
like the
write
way we
on this
did it
table
last
in a
time.
different color. What we're going to do is 3d6, 6 times. Write your numbers on the table in your color, and when all of you are done doing that, we will take the next step.
I assume I'm guessing.
Is the order important?
Nope, just you want to generate 6 numbers.
3d6, huh?
3d6. Don't drop anything. Enjoy the 8 that you roll.
That's a 9, I'll have you know.
I went with 46, dropped the lowest last time I rolled stats, and I still ended up with 3 stats below 10. It was wonderful. He was a deep gnome. That was my deep gnome that I played. Alphonicus Aloysius.
That's a good name.
He's going to end up as an
That's-
NPC in this game, I'm sure. He was a lot of fun.
Oh, I've already had thoughts about how I want to use Razu as an NPC in other games.
I do
How many times?
6 times.
Started with a 6.
Six
That's
times.
good.
Okay.
Because you got 6 stats.
And a 7.
Ooh.
12. $13.
There's an 8. There we go.
There's an 18 right there.
Nice.
All right.
I'm just gonna type mine. This is
That's where I got.
This would,
And a 10.
I think under most systems I've seen, this would qualify for hopeless character reroll. I don't know if that 15 invalidates it with 3 penalties. I think most systems say, yeah, just try again.
So, we got... These are McDohl's in orange down here. Nodal's in pink here. Destil's in purple. Or Trebles. Oh, you've written yours down here on the table?
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
And McDohl is writing his up here.
There it is.
That's a nice spread there, boy.
That is a spread.
For your character, you can select any of these 5 arrays you want. But you have to take the whole array. You can all take the same array if you want. You can all take different arrays. You don't have to take your own, but these are your options.
Hey, Destil, I won't be taking yours.
Yeah, I know.
Where is
what
Nodal?
did Destil's come up to?
9, 5,
it?
9, 11, 11. That's good. I like that one.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I feel like Destil rolled the worst last time too.
This is where you look at McDohl's and you're like, oh, that 6 and 7 are rough, but there's an 18 that I can turn into a 20.
Yep.
The hard
Where's-
decisions.
Where's Nodal's?
Mine is over here.
Oh, I see.
Nodal's is pretty good. This is pretty good.
Yeah, I think
Which
I'm
one
also
does?
gonna just make mine.
I think Nodal's
That's
is
workable,
pretty
yeah.
good, I believe.
McDohl has over here rolled maybe the most average stats possible.
Yeah, it's very middling.
I'll take average, man. You see me roll.
That's very true.
I don't know. The way you roll, you better take this 18.
Wait, what's the second? Okay, thank you. So that's a +3 and a +3.
Nodal's over here rolling basically slightly worse standard array.
Destil, did you find the Deep Gnome?
Yeah,
swap?
yeah.
Okay, good.
Ooh.
Where are the firearm rules?
Those
Trebles isn't bad.
are in the DMG.
Okay.
12, 10, 13.
And the
14,
Artificer
15.
is the class that can have firearms?
Firearm proficiency is its own thing, and Artificer is the only class that can start with it.
Right.
I think I rolled slightly worse standard array, actually.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah, with the 16 and 15, I think mine might be slightly better 17.
Yeah.
That having a 20 at level 1 though, I mean, that's not
Yeah,
nothing.
I mean, I'm looking at it's like
Whatever.
it's 2 penalties and a +4 versus 2 penalties and 2 +3s, 2 +2s.
I don't think the 7 and 9 are that harsh of a penalty, really.
No.
And really, this
Until you have to make that random once a campaign charisma saving throw.
I think I use intelligence saves more than I use charisma saves. Which I think the Artificer is proficient with intelligence saves.
Oh yeah.
Because there are a lot of psionics in this world. If you recall, there was an entire army of Ilithids
Did they ever
that you had to
actually
beat
put
back.
out the psionic?
Yeah, that's
Class?
the last UA.
It's the
It's still
latest
UA, though.
UA.
They haven't put it in the book.
No.
Yeah, it's still UA. If anybody's using a UA class, please do me a solid and post me a link in Discord so I can go over it again.
You got it, buddy.
And remember,
I think I'm gonna go with my array. I think that's what I'm gonna do.
Who's this white number up here?
That's me.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna take those.
are taking the 18.
I think so.
I am too, I think.
Oh, okay. That's 6 and 7. Those are going to be very interesting in this game.
Well, the thing is mine is already a 7, so that's already a -2.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking. Like the Nodals is just kind of a little bit more spread out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
I would take mine for like a paladin, but like I think I might take that one for a wizard.
my motto,
Which
of
one are you
course,
taking
is
for a
there's
wizard?
no such thing as a dump stat.
I might take McDohl's. Just because like I'm gonna have a dump stat either way.
I mean, in Destil's roll, they're all dump stats, so...
Again, I think that qualifies for nearly every hopeless character reroll rule I've ever seen.
I think.
I don't know, you got
Beyond
a 15.
is-
Yeah, because the total sum of the bonuses and penalties is negative.
I think Beyond just took a poopy.
It
Oh,
just
I'm
took a
still in.
poopy.
Yeah.
I think it might be your internet.
Blame your internet.
Blame yourself or God.
Blame your internet and God.
Where's the starting equipment for an artificer, and how many guns do I get?
I doubt you start with any guns. Just proficiency in how to use
Yeah, I
them.
guess as a wizard, like,
Those are on
you
page
really don't need strength and dex.
54
Dexterity, you do.
in the Eberron book, Destil.
Okay.
Until you have to make a strength saving throw to keep your footing or be knocked into a pit.
Yeah, we know.
Then I'll use teleport.
And
See, what you do then is
no
you just-
Aarakocra in this campaign, apparently.
That didn't save Windy that one time.
No, but it did save someone else.
11.
Windy definitely
always
saved a
saved
couple
other
people.
people.
Yeah.
I mean, and then there's that one time you dropped me.
Okay, but to be fair, you got to fly for like 20 seconds. That's pretty good for a kobold. Your mom would have been proud.
Like you should have been
I
born
think-
with wings.
I'm gonna go with Nodals, I think.
Okay.
I think it's a better, safer distribution.
Okay. And I mean, 16 at level 1, you turn that to an 18, that's not bad. That's still real good.
Do I?
I love
The
how
other
you
thing that's
immediately
convinced
think
me-
we're going to turn these into like 18s and 20s. I appreciate that. 'Cause that is exactly what we're going to do.
Do you know what
Sorry,
page in the
Nodal.
DMG the firearm rules are?
No, I don't, but I will get those for you.
Does a gnome have to use a smaller gun? Is what I'm trying to remember.
Is it a medium-sized weapon?
Every time I've ever seen a gnome use a gun, the gun has been bigger than the gnome anyway.
That's what I'm going for.
So
I kind of
the
like
way
this.
towards the back in the miscellaneous stuff in the back of the DMG. Let me get the actual page for you.
No, I'm gonna use Nodals too. I think. Yeah.
Page 268 has firearms. We're going to be sticking with the Renaissance items. So we're not going
Okay.
with modern firearms, and we're definitely not going with futuristic laser weapons and things. You also have cost and weight values here for explosives, but we're going to be sticking with Renaissance items in any event.
We're gonna all need to learn gun proficiency so that we can play the private eyes of our dreams.
Keep in mind that firearms do have the loading proficiency.
Yep.
Or the loading keyword, rather. I haven't actually looked at that, because that applies with crossbows. You can't fire out of the same crossbow more than once a round, even if you have multiple attacks, because you gotta load it. But you can
Yeah, there's a
dual
feat
wield
that
crossbows.
removes it.
Well, the artificer doesn't attack more than once around. They're kind of like a rogue where they get bonuses to that one attack.
This is where I'm inclined to add a house rule, though. Not add a house rule, just import a rule from 2nd edition. What is the damage on... Damage is a D10 on a pistol, a D12 on a musket. If you roll your damage on a pistol and you roll a 10, it explodes and you roll again. And you keep rolling as long as you see 10s.
If you're going to do that, I'm definitely playing this Artificer, because that's a little broken, but... I mean, realistically, it only adds, statistically, what? Half of damage?
If you roll a 1 on your to-hit roll,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to ask you to confirm it, and if the second roll is also a 1, your gun explodes in your hands.
Or you spend 2 blips.
Or you spend 2 blips.
If you get a third one, well, that's on you, buddy.
Let me add
Red
those.
did that a long time. Did that a lot to preserve his enchanted bowstrings.
Yep. That was the other thing I used my blips for, that's right.
You use your blips for maintenance costs. That's fine. Other people use their blips for tentacles, which was a little alarming.
I mean, they whispered and made squelching noises, man. I mean, come on. It's a good use of blips.